Hey guys, Mitchell here. I just wanted to take a moment before we launch into this latest episode of the Authors Marketing Podcast and say that everyone here at Authorshift has truly been appreciating all the feedback and support that's been rolling in from you guys since the inception of this show. So if you haven't already headed over to authorshift.com/iTunes or /Stitcher, we appreciate if you can do that for us so you can subscribe, rate, and review this show. Now, if you do either one of those three things, especially if you're leaving us high ratings and reviews, actually we'd love if you can do that, but what we're really more interested in is getting honest feedback from you guys, because that really just helps to propel us to give you the best information possible for your book business. So without further ado, let's head over to this latest episode of the AMP show, episode number 5, with our guest, Jason Matthews.
Hi, you're listening to the Authors Marketing Podcast, episode number 5. I'm your host, Mitchell Wright, and this is the best place where everyday writers can get the advice they need to successfully launch their books, get seen, and engage the right readers while turning their passion for storytelling into a lucrative career. Here's a quick Q&A for you, AMP Nation. Are you on our newsletter? If not, simply head over to authorshift.com to sign up today. And when you do, you'll get our brand new report, The 12 Best Online Resources for Authors. If you're an author who realizes the power of being a social author, but you're really just not sure how to get started, the 12 tools that we feature will get you there. And you know the absolute best reason for getting your hands on this report? 10 of the 12 resources are free. So make sure you head over to authorshift.com and sign up today. Is your book ready to hit your readers' eyes, but you just haven't clicked that publish button yet? If so, head over to authorshift.com/LAB to join other like-minded authors in our group, How to Successfully Launch a Book. This is a members-only area that gives you access to all of our online marketing material, such as newsletter templates, and also how to curate content for your social media channels. We also share with you our offline promotional guides. So if you want to do a signing or a reading at a bookstore, your audience is going to be there for you. So head over to authorshift.com/lab to find out more. All right, AMP listeners, let's get started. Today I'm so thrilled to introduce our guest, Jason Matthews. Jason, are you ready to get amped up?
Absolutely, Mitchell. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Now, Jason is a novelist, blogger, speaker, and a self-publishing coach who works with writers from around the world. His specialties include building author platforms, selling at major book retailers, engaging an audience through social media, blogging, and SEO. He is also the co-host of the show, Indie Authors. Now, Jason, I've just given our audience a brief overview, but please take a minute and tell us about you personally, because we want to get to know you. Then give us an overview of what you got going on with you, your books, and your show.
Sure. Thank you for that nice introduction. I am a self-published author. I wrote novels and got frustrated with the publishing process, like many writers do. And so, because advances in self-publishing had come a long way, I decided to get involved with selling on Amazon Kindle and things like that. And I started selling books and also helping other authors. And that's when I got into writing how-to guides for self-publishing, for blogging, for doing better with Google. And so I kind of do a combination of my own novels or short stories or whatever have you, but I also teach and work with other authors who are trying to get their books read by more people.
Wow, it sounds like you're actually able to call upon not just your own experience, but the experience of helping others get seen by their readers.
That's true, and I'm always learning too, because this industry changes so quickly. And one of the best things about working with other authors is you constantly pick up little things here and there from other people. Even less experienced people might have something to teach you. So it's really a great way to keep learning all the time.
Okay, so the experience you're drawing from the authors that you're working with, and including your own experiences as an author, what do you feel is the one misconception new authors have about book marketing?
Well, I think there are a lot of misconceptions, but I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that if an author publishes a book, that if they just go out and start telling everybody, hey, you've got to buy my book, and so they tweet about it constantly, and they go on Facebook and they talk about their book constantly, and they use anything they can think of to just constantly hammer home, hey, my book is for sale, it's on Amazon, it's on wherever, please buy my book. That they think that that's going to work, and really it doesn't work. You can do some of that, but you have to have a much more balanced approach when it comes to marketing a book. It's really about it's a much smarter approach is to network with people, to use social media to be social, not to be selfish. So I think that that's one of the big misconceptions is that if people just broadcast, hey, buy my book, or it's all about my book, that's a real turnoff, and it doesn't do much to sell books, in my opinion.
You know what it sounds like you're saying is if an author always goes the self-promotional route and they're always linking back to their books, just trying to get that book sale, it's not really giving any value to their readers. Their audience has very little reason to lend any support to a book or to that author.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love how you stated it takes a smarter and a more balanced approach to marketing a book. Does that just apply to online promotion, or can that carry over to offline promotion as well?
Yes, but 99% of promotion these days really is online. In the old days, it was all offline. In the old days, it was very important to be involved in offline promotion, and we can talk about that too. But now it's really online promotion. It's a global audience that we're talking about. Whether you're selling on Amazon or Apple or even through Google, you are targeting readers from around the world. And so your online author platform has to be very well rounded, very well developed, and you have to stay active with it.
Jason, that's awesome. I love how you tied in how authors today need to be participating and being active with the audience on the channels that they're using to actually reach new readers. Now, is there an online resource that you have, Jason, that you think most authors are they just don't know about, or they're not paying attention to, or it's perhaps under the radar for most people?
No, I don't think so. I think most people know that a combination of social media and blogging is probably the best thing that an author can do to stay active with their potential readers and to network. Social media, I like Facebook, I like Google Plus, I use Twitter, but I'm not super active with Twitter. But it all depends on your personality type and what you gravitate to. Some people will use Pinterest really well, especially if they have a lot of images in their books, or maybe if they have young adult subject matter. I really I like blogging as well because I have subjects that are important and subjects that will do well in search engines. And so if I do a combination of blogging and social media, that is going to help get my message out there to a lot of people in a lot of nations. And I think that that's a good recipe for most authors.
Jason, you actually just brought up a very valuable point for our listeners. If you're going to be on a social platform, you need to know how it works. So that way, when you develop content or you're sharing content with your audience, you want to get the most feedback from them, either through a like if it's on Facebook, share or a comment, or even simply a click over to your website, to your blog, that's going to happen. So if, let's say, you're really strong on Facebook, all the effort that you're putting into that is going to be appreciated by your fans. If you just happen not to be as strong on, let's say, a platform like Twitter, maybe Pinterest is the way to go. So there's definitely tons of options out there for authors. But it really comes back to knowing how to engage your audience in the way they'll appreciate it.
That's true. And then the other thing to remember is that this takes time. You have to do this regularly over a period of months and years. You can't just, create a Facebook page or create a Twitter handle or create a blog and suddenly everybody's going to be buying your book. It takes a lot of time and persistence and just doing things better, networking more, participating, not just talking about yourself or your book, but participating with others to get real results.
Jason, that's such great, valuable input you just shared with our listeners. Now I'm going to switch directions a little bit and ask, from the point that when you started your writing career, how much has book promotion changed from then to today?
Well, it's changed an unbelievable amount. I wrote my first novel. I finished it in 2004. And so back then, it was a completely different ballgame. It was all about print and figuring out how to get into print. So back then, it was all about can I get a publishing contract, or do I consider vanity publishing? But then over a period of just a few years, Amazon started selling books. They enabled independent authors to upload books, and that completely changed the paradigm. At first, not a lot of people were doing it, and there was still a real stigma attached. And so if you had a good book, you could start selling copies as an independent author on Amazon back in 2008, 2009. You could sell a lot of books. And now that it's become so popular, there are probably, a million independently published books since I started selling mine. It's much more competitive. It's much more difficult to succeed. You really have to have a strong all-around author platform, and obviously you have to have a good book too. But you have to be doing a lot of things well to sell books. So it has changed quite a bit, and it's just going to continue to be that much more challenging to make it work. But at the same time, it's possible, and anyone can do it if they're making the effort to do both of those things well.
Jason, you brought up several great points. The one that really calls out to me is the persistence factor. There's, like you said, there's tons of competition now on Amazon like never before. And so to really reach your readers and really get noticed by the people you want to pick up your book and open your book and buy your book, you have to do what your competition isn't doing. You have to take your marketing up a notch. And I think you really nailed it on the head, especially with your advice on social media.
A lot of authors, they're writers, but they're not necessarily very personable or very good with social media or with their computers. So if you can do those other things well, that right off the bat, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage to hopefully be, selling books and being successful.
Jason, you actually bring up a very valuable point. In the beginning, a lot of authors do struggle with getting their personalities to shine through their marketing. It takes a certain finesse, especially if you're working within the construct of social media. For Twitter, that is a perfect example. You're only allowed at a certain amount of characters to convey a message. So a lot of authors do struggle with that in the beginning. But as you said, it does require perseverance. You just have to plug away at it and treat it as an exercise. Every day you just continue to just move forward. Now, Jason, I want to switch gears now and dive into the marketing books you've released, but also you run a show titled Indie Authors. Where did that show come from? What's the background, the backstory for that show, and where can our listeners view it?
Yeah, sure. As you mentioned, how to make your own free website and your free blog. And the third one is get on Google front page. And these are all things that will help authors to establish internet presence and to sell books, and also without spending a whole bunch of money. And so because I work with a lot of new authors, I was contacted by some people who said, we'd like you to do an indie author series, basically discussing topics that are within the industry, whether it's formatting or cover design or blogging or social media or anything like that, but also interviewing new authors and authors who I think have what it takes to be successful, that kind of thing. So we started doing a regular a Google Plus Hangout, and those become YouTube videos. And it just kind of went from there. And for a while, I was doing it under the umbrella of a company that was trying to have a lot of different shows, not just shows about authors, but shows about a lot of other topics. And eventually, that kind of fell through, and so I started doing some shows on my own. And that's one of the nice things about doing Google Plus Hangouts, and you can have your own show. Basically, anybody can create a series if they want to do it, weekly or monthly or whatever. They can kind of create their own program, and so that's what we did with the Indie Authors Show.
Perfect, Jason. Now I'm going to throw a doozy of a question your way. It's really kind of geared towards new authors or indie authors who are just really beginning to build their brands online. It's if you had to release a book by the end of the week and you didn't have any audience to rely on, what would you do? What would you focus on? Are there any services you would use? What kind of plan would you use to roll out to get your book released successfully by the end of the week?
Well, if I didn't have any author platform, it would be very, very difficult to market a book. I think if you're a new author and you're getting ready to publish a book, you need to have a platform in place for it to be successful. You need to have social media channels. You need an email list, or you need, a lot of support. That's going to be a very difficult sell to just publish your book without those things in place. So I would consider even holding off for a little while until you have more of that in place. However, assuming that you have at least some things in place, if I were publishing a book, I would do a lot of things. I would contact, there are lists of promotional websites that specialize in inexpensive books or even free books. For example, if you're doing a KDP Select through Amazon and you are going to have free promotional days, there are lists of websites that will promote your free days for you. So I would contact as many of those websites as possible to let them know the days that your book is going to be for free if you do KDP Select. Or some of those websites work with inexpensive books. And for most new authors, they don't want to overprice their books. So their books should be, in the $2.99 to $4.99 range. I would contact my mailing list. I would send everyone on my mailing list a note that says, hey, I've got a new book that's just released on Amazon. Here's the link. I would get my beta readers and my editors to write a review, because reviews are really important for selling books. You want to have some reviews in place as soon as your book goes live. These do not all have to be 5-star reviews. They can be, 3-star reviews, 4-star reviews, even 2-star reviews are fine. You want people to talk candidly about the book. You don't want it to sound like one of your relatives trying to help you sell the book. You want it to be a real sounding review. I would get those reviews in place as soon as possible, as soon as the book is published. I would contact my social media circles, let them know about the book, ask them to share on Facebook, on Google+. I would blog about it. I would write a few blogs, posts, including the cover, and talking about what the book is about, why it will help people or entertain people, or give people something to think about. I would do a little bit of everything, and I would keep doing it, but I would also do it in, as we mentioned before, trying to participate more than just broadcast, buy my book. It's a fine line. You have to try and sell your product, but you don't want to come across as being too pushy, basically. It's a fine line to walk. It really is.
Now, Jason, I believe this is actually a very interesting question and exercise for a lot of authors who are really trying to understand the right way for them that works for them to build an audience and an engaging readership. Now, you talked about promoting your writing and your content on a blog, and then also tie that in with social media channels like Facebook and Twitter. And I know you specifically use Google Plus a lot, and I actually believe that's a great channel that a lot of authors are neglecting right now. So there's an open space that anybody can actually use and really kind of get seen and really grow their presence without being faced with a lot of competition. And just how you mentioned earlier with Amazon, in the beginning, there weren't a lot of authors who had ebooks available. And then the ones who saw that are now very, very successful. So it's about really being a trendsetter and getting your voice out there. And also, you mentioned services as well. Now, if you don't have an audience, the major question is, how do you get your books seen by the right audience? And that actually, the services you mentioned, there are a list of avid readers who are always searching for that new book. And I think you nailed it again on the head, is where you would submit your books to these services, and people who find them attractive, if you have a mystery title, it'll be put into the mystery section, and the people who read mysteries will automatically gravitate to that section, and they see your book, they like it, they read it. If you have a professional book cover, all that tie in the complete package will get that person who's not part of your platform, that's your new reader right there. And I love how you tied in that service as being a part of the plan that you would use. And I think this is a great fix to the problem a lot of authors feel that they have about coming across to new audience members or new readers as a used car salesman. So if they're always on that self-promotional kick, I think this is the quick and easy and less pushy way to getting your books into the hands of the right readers.
I think one of the tricks, Mitchell, is to attempt to explain to people how this book will actually help them or be interesting for them. You want to do what you can to make it about the reader and not so much about you or your book. If the reader sees something that they can benefit from by reading this book, whether it's information or new thoughts or just entertainment, escape, fantasy, whatever, if the reader senses that they're going to benefit from it, I think you have a much better chance at making initial sales.
Jason, that's a very solid point you just brought up. Authors need to work at creating the message that conveys why an audience member should buy their book. It has to be beneficial to the reader. They may love you. They may love your previous work, but maybe it's a different genre, or maybe it's a different kind of topic than what you've written about in the past. So if an author can really tailor their message so the reader understands why it could be beneficial to them, why they would find it entertaining, why they would take away some kind of knowledge or benefit from that book purchase, that will really turn the tide in anyone's book sales. Okay, Jason, we're actually coming to the close of the show, but first I wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your expertise today. I know our listeners are going to find really amazing opportunities from just the things that you just kind of featured and highlighted today. Now, I wanted to give you the opportunity to let our audience members know what's the best way to reach you. How can they contact you? Where can they find your show?
Well, if people want to contact me, they can email me directly. It's jason@thelittleuniverse.com. They can just tell me what their email is about, and I'll try and get back to them as soon as I can. I get a lot of requests for author interviews on my show, but for the most part, I'm really not able to do them all. And I'm pretty selective with the shows that I do now. So I would just say ahead of time that I'm not doing that many author interviews anymore. But I am happy to network with people and answer questions if people have questions. Anyway, I appreciate being a guest on your show, Mitchell, and want to thank you for having me here.
Well, Jason, it's been our pleasure. Thank you so much for being a part of our show.
Definitely, pleasure is all mine.
All right, AMP listeners, on every episode, I want to have one quote that is shared with you guys to really give you the fuel that you need to move forward, whether that's through your writing or that's through any kind of marketing, if you're just not sure how to get started, or if you're just uncertain about taking that first step. The first step is always what you need to take, whether you happen to be ready or not. you just move forward. You just go and hold yourself back. And so the quote I'm actually going to share to you today is one by Maya Angelou. Now, she became an influential part in my growing up. In high school, when I was assigned to read I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. At the time, I didn't really understand why my English teacher was assigning an autobiography to read in class. But when I closed the last page, it really did dawn on me that, or at least for me anyway, the book meant you'd have courage to just move forward into the next phase of your life. From the perspective of an individual who was faced with tragedy early on and really a hard life and managed in the end to persevere and move beyond the struggles and the challenges that were placed before her. And the quote I'm going to share with you guys is, one isn't necessarily born with courage, but one is born with potential. Without courage, we cannot practice any other virtue with consistency. We can't be kind, true, merciful, generous, or honest. Now, in today's episode, we did talk a lot about being persistent and having consistency. In my mind, it's not so much just related to book marketing, but everything that you do in your life, on every avenue, every aspect, every tangent that you might take down the road. So I really hope this quote really makes you, or really helps you understand that even if you don't feel like you have the courage, you have the potential to do what you need to do. And that potential is often the lift you need to achieve the goals you want to achieve, no matter what cards you're initially handed in this game we call life. Now, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Authors Marketing Podcast. If you did, please head over to authorship.com/iTunes and hit that subscribe button. Leave us a rating. Hopefully it's going to be 5 stars, and a review, an honest review of what you think of the show. Now, if you leave us a 5-star rating and review to show your support for this show, I'll feature your name at the top of our next episode. You can also find the show at Stitcher Radio. Just type in the Authors Marketing Podcast or my name, Mitchell Wright, and the show will come right up. It's been a pleasure being a part of your publishing journey. Now I wish you all the best and success.